Welcome to Afros in the Diaspora. My name is Sarah. I am your host, and together we will vent, rant, laugh, and cry as we discuss the highs and lows of being an immigrant. Stay tuned for stories that will inspire, inform, entertain, and give hope. This is Afros in the Diaspora. Welcome, Sherry, to the Afros in the Diaspora podcast. How are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for being here with me today. I'm so excited for the conversation that we have today. But, we have two icebreakers for you. And I'm going to mix it up this time around. I'm going to ask you to name 15 countries in the continent of Africa.
15.
15.
Oh, you were putting me out here. Okay. Woo. Okay. I'm going to say Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Congo. We've got Sudan and South Sudan. How many is that?
4.
4?
Yes.
We've got Egypt, Morocco, Ethiopia, Nigeria, Ghana, Libya, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Tanzania, Rwanda. One more. Madagascar.
Oh, round of applause for you. Good job.
Thank you. I didn't know I could do that on the
spot. Amazing. Great. Okay. Good. So our next question for you, I want you to tell us about the worst job you've ever had. Like in your life.
Ooh.
Like the worst job. The job that you had to do, but you will not wish that on your worst enemy.
Oh, okay. I'll be honest. I was working for a cleaning company, subcontracting, and I would work after hours going into clinics and cleaning up after, a work day. So there were definitely some things here and there. You gotta make sure it's sanitary and just disinfected for the next day. But I guess the part that made that so disgusting was just the garbage, and I hated it so much.
Yeah,
definitely on top of my list for worst jobs ever.
Yo, I've worked at a clinic before as a medical office admin, and I understand what you're saying. The garbage at the end of the day, because we have to do urine samples, we have to do swabs, and things like that. Like, there's a whole lot that happens in the clinic, and a lot of it can be disgusting. So I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I've seen it all.
Not seen it all. Oh, amazing. Thank you for sharing. So we're going to go into our topic for today. We're going to be talking about interracial relationships and the intricacies of it. So Sherry, before we go right into it, I want you to just give us like a short summary of your background as an immigrant and African.
Yes. Okay, so short summary of my background as an African immigrant. I was born in Egypt, but my parents are Sudanese. So they met in Egypt, got married, had me, and when I was 3 years old, we immigrated to Canada. So I've lived here in Canada my whole life. I'm now 27 years old. And the experience has been a roller coaster, to say the least, in regards to how being an immigrant here has affected my family, myself personally, and just in regards to me being a part of the diaspora, but still feeling like I'm a Canadian because I was raised here. Just the different, I guess, just the differences between the two, and trying to identity-wise discover more about myself, who I am, through different methods now in my adulthood. So yeah, it's been a journey.
I bet.
There's been a lot to learn.
And so since we're talking about interracial relationships tell us about how you met your husband, Ian.
Oh yes, my husband, as I'm sure everyone is wondering, he's a white man, and I met him at church. So he's
Praise
the
the Lord.
pastor's kid. Yeah,
Hallelujah.
praise the Lord. He's so great, and how we met actually is really um, it's just one of those stories that's like we knew each other for a few years, and I never, batted an eye at him and kept my distance, knowing full well, you don't mess with pastors' kids. And but then we were on a ministry trip one summer, and we became really good friends over that trip. We were with a group of other people from the worship team, because I sing on a worship team and he plays the drums. And from that moment forward, we were like this, like friends, who hung out all the time. We went to all the church events together. So that was 8 years ago. He asked me to be his girlfriend in January 2015. And we were dating for 7 months. He proposed to me that August. And then a year later, we got married. So now it's been
Ooh,
7 years of marriage.
7 years.
Yeah. And
Wow.
that's,
That's a that's an
yeah,
achievement. Like that's an accomplishment because a lot of marriages don't
I
make it that
know.
long. So, yeah.
It's
So,
true.
well done. Now, tell us about the wedding process. Tell us about, because I know you're coming from an African
Hmm.
culture, and we all know, like, there's
Yes.
the bride price, there's the traditional marriage, right? If you're going to do a white
Hmm.
wedding, there's that as well. If you're going to do a court wedding, there's
Yep.
that. So you're basically doing like three weddings, but they're all like kind of important. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So like there's the
Oh, yeah.
traditional part of it, bringing your family into it, setting a date, what the traditional
Hmm.
rites are. So please take us on that
Yeah.
journey of like what that was like for you and your husband.
Okay. So I'll be honest, and no one come for me when I say this, but I I will be completely honest in just saying that I was young when I got married, so 20 years old, and until then had not had a whole lot of exposure to the traditional methods of marriage in for my culture, right? And so I did not expect the process
Mm.
that was going to come about from Ian, my husband, wanting to be wed to me, wanting to marry me. So, uh, I guess to keep a long story short, we were engaged August 14th in 2015.
Hmm.
And I was so excited. The way he did it, it was so elaborate, so romantic,
Oh.
fairy tale story. um, Calling everyone on the way home, like, guys, guess what happened? I said yes. Like,
Oh.
Ian proposed, crying, just so much joy in the moment. And a day later, I'm home, and my mom, God bless her, she didn't know, right? Like, I just was so, head in the clouds, excited. She told me that the engagement wasn't real until things were done the traditional way. So I was like,
Wow.
what?
What?
What does that mean?
Oh my gosh.
I don't understand what you just said to me. No context, right? So
Mm.
we walked out a year-long process after an engagement party that had been planned and helped to be put on through African members at our church. They kind of helped to give me context, and Ian context as well, because I couldn't prepare him. I had no understanding whatsoever of what was about to take place. Um, so I kind of, I'll be honest, still to this day, feel a little bit of guilt behind that, of not knowing and not being able to
Oh.
share that kind of a process with him beforehand and his family.
Mm.
Just because
Yeah.
his sister, who's also my age, was also getting married that year, so just the added pressure,
Oh my
and
gosh.
like
So like two weddings
learning
in the
and
family the
discovery.
same
Oh
year.
yes, It was a journey, to say the least. We had a bride price arrangement that started negotiations and like monthly meetings for an entire year.
Oh, wow.
So my engagement process for me, I'll be honest, was stressful.
Mm,
It was not an experience that I wish on anyone, especially a young bride to be. It was just trying to be excited about her wedded life coming up, and for many reasons, to be honest. Like for me, I just felt a little bit betrayed. I won't
mm,
lie, because I didn't know. I wish I knew. I wish someone had prepared me and told me in advance,
mhm,
which again was difficult because, again, me being young, and not having been exposed to a whole lot of that before in my life. One of
yeah.
the reasons being my parents split when I was maybe 10 years old, and that
Mhm,
kind of pulled us away from my community and our
yeah.
culture. Anyways, all that to say, there was a bride price that was paid, respectfully. It was something we wanted to honor,
Mhm,
and we were going to follow through with it, even though there were days where it was hard. And
yeah.
yeah, I told Ian, I was like, you don't have to go through any of this for me. Like if you want to just turn away, and I even told his family, and they all told me, like, especially his father, so my father-in-law, he said, no, Sherry, you're worth it. And
Oh.
you know that solidified it for me that, okay, this is my family. They're willing to go through this discovery process, this journey of learning with me. So that was my experience.
Shout out to them though, because that support I'm sure made a huge difference for you because like
Oh,
I bet it was hard enough, feeling guilty and like, oh, I wish I could have prepared them and da da da. But knowing
yeah,
that there was so much grace from their side, you know what I mean? And it
yeah.
wasn't like, oh, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't that like what is it? Animosity. God, gee, Lord,
Yes,
English language.
animosity.
It wasn't. There wasn't animosity
Yes,
from them for like, oh, why didn't you tell us or why didn't you prepare? Like,
right.
just that grace of like, you're worth it. We're here
Hmm.
with you. We're going through this together. That reassurance, I'm sure, made a massive difference for you.
It did. It did. Yeah. It made all the difference, honestly, because it was at a time where I knew, like, um, for myself, that just one of the rules
Mm-hmm.
in my traditional um, wedding, uh, just the way that they do things, was that the bride has no say in any of the dealings and the proceedings after engagement. So it was hard for me to plan a wedding
Oh,
when when I couldn't be, heard, or I couldn't have any, I guess, contributions
mm-hmm.
verbally
Yeah.
on my own behalf. So I'd have to get someone to tell my family what I wanted, and yeah, it was just an interesting process to say
Man,
the
and
least. Not something that I feel like, now looking back, I understand it, but in the moment, girl,
yep, it will
I
be
had no
hard.
idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it was
I
hard.
can I can only imagine because I'm Nigerian from Edo State, Benin City, and
Hmm.
I've been to a couple of Benin weddings. I've been there
Oh
as my
yeah.
Nigerian accent is speaking out right now. I've been
Yeah.
to a couple of those weddings, but you see, I I don't know that I really know that I know the full breakdown of it. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
all
yeah.
those like conversations with like the elders of the family or the men
Yeah.
of the family or in between the father of the bride versus the father of the groom and like all those conversations. I don't really think
Yeah.
I know it. So
Girl.
maybe I need to call up my mom and ask.
Hey, okay, so my advice to you and anyone planning on getting married is from Africa is do your research and ask
Yeah.
questions
Mhm.
beforehand. It will save you so much stress
So much
in the
stress.
process.
Oh my goodness. I bet. I bet. Because man, I know and there's some cultures because there's some cultures that the bride price that from 1950 is still what it is today. So if it's
Right.
one
Yes.
naira, it's going to be one naira and they're not accepting a dime more. And then there's some cultures that it
Mm-hmm.
gets more and more. The parents or the family members or the,
Over
you know,
time.
elders, yeah, over time they decide that, oh, we want the head of a lion and the tail of a tiger. And like, you
Yes,
know,
all those things.
you know what I mean. So like, so it's so
Oh
interesting
yeah,
because different cultures have different requirements, right? um
right.
wow, okay, next question. Because like honestly, just on the topic of like the wedding rites alone, that's a whole, we could talk,
Yeah,
we could be here all day, to be honest, because
girl.
it can go on for a long time, because like especially being the
Hmm.
woman, then it's
Yes.
like, you know, they have to, it's almost like, just to what you said of, you felt you could not, you know, make your request known or say anything, because in their
Exactly. Yep.
mind it's their way of taking care of you. In their mind it's their way
Yes.
of advocating for you. For them it's their way of,
Exactly.
you know, defending you and standing for you and making sure that you're going into a great family and all these things. But
Hmm.
you know, being in the moment, like you were saying, it's like,
Yeah.
like it's really nerve-wracking. And it's, I can
Exactly.
only imagine like the super feminists listening, or people that would
Right.
just be like, I'm a woman and it's year
Right.
2023 and I can
There's no way you're speaking for me about my
no way.
wedding day,
My
right?
friend, will
Oh
you go and
man.
sit down somewhere? They will speak for you.
Be humbled.
You will
Sit
be
down.
humbled by four.
Be
Exactly. Exactly.
exactly.
So what was that acceptance like within both of your families, from his family to yours to you, as this, you know, young black woman coming into their family
Hmm.
as a wife, as, you know, now a daughter, sister, an in-law, you
Yeah.
know, what was that like
Right.
from your husband's family, and what was that like from your family?
And I guess to this day, we're still discovering that.
Mm,
um, in regards to how I experienced it on my end, um, Ian's family has been accepting since before day one, and
mm,
even more so after he came to his family, telling them that, hi guys, yeah, this is girl. You all know her, and her name's Sherry. She goes to our church. Resounding acceptance from everyone in his immediate family
mm,
who all knew me from before, and that was, just further confirmation that okay, this is good. Like I feel safe in this setting, and
yeah.
and his family has just always been that way with
Oh,
me.
amazing.
Um, and in regards to my family, my mom from the very beginning, Ian being a pastor's son had no issues with him at all.
Yeah.
She was just like, "Yeah, you're my son now."
Oh, amazing.
um, yeah, immediately. My parents, so my dad, on the other hand, he had a little bit of, you know, I guess
Reservations.
not reservations per se, but definitely getting there. He he has to be the father, right? Like, and then any father would be, he's protective, wanting to kind of suss Ian out, like,
Mm-hmm.
what are your intentions with my daughter from
Yeah.
the beginning?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but things now are good. It's it's been an interesting process just because we are Christian, Ian and I and our family.
Mm-hmm.
But on my mom's side, her siblings are Muslim. So
Okay.
that's been interesting to walk out. Yeah, she converted when I was young, and so not that that causes any tension or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, but it is
Mm-hmm.
something that's a difference, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and in terms of acceptance, they're very accepting. They came to all our celebrations for our wedding, but
Mm.
it's something I think about, and I'm sure Ian thinks about from time to time. That is a difference there, and yeah, it's just something to work out and figure out as we go.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
great, actually. Like hearing that both
Hmm.
families are there already, and like, yes, you're my family. You know, you're my son, you're my daughter, you're we're family now, or even on their way there, that's awesome.
Mhm.
Because like that's
Mhm.
not, you would think it's common, but it's not very common, even amongst like black people, or
It's true.
because cultural biases still very very much exist. And
Yes.
sometimes it's not even, it doesn't even have to do with like the skin color of like white versus black. Like in a lot of
Right.
African communities, it's like, oh,
Mhm.
you are either marrying from this tribe or you're staying single. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so I hear you, and I think that's absolutely amazing. um
Yeah.
Another question I have for you, as we get into the harder questions, um tell me about
Next, the spicy stuff.
the spicy stuff. Tell me about um Tell me
Okay.
about what your community, I guess, outside of family, so like friends, colleagues, like kind of the world, like the outer circle from your family. Like
Mhm.
how was that received from your friends, from his friends? Because
Mhm.
there's white privilege, there's the fetishous Jesus Lord God, it's coming.
It's there.
It's there, it's there. um yeah, so just what did the acceptance from his own community that were not family look like? So his friends, his colleagues, and same with you, what was that like? Because there's such a thing as white
Right.
privilege. There is, where they're racially considerate, where they, because the topic about fetish oh my lord, oh my
It's
goodness,
okay.
I can't speak. I don't know words anymore. Hold on, let me ask Google to say it for me,
Yes,
because
Google.
this is stressful. Fetishize fet fetishization.
Or
Fetishes.
oh yes,
That did not make it any
fetish,
easier.
fetish.
Fetishization.
I girl, only Google can say that word.
Is that on
Only
me?
Google can say
Fetishization.
that word.
Fetishization.
Mm-mm. I'm not even gonna
Fetishization.
try again. I'm embarrassed
Fetishization.
for me.
Wait. We're
Fetish
gonna
is
take the whole question from
mm-mm.
the top. We're gonna try that question again.
Let's try it again.
Fetishiz fetishization. Okay.
Fetish,
Um
yes, that word.
okay, take three. Okay,
Okay.
third time the charm. So, what did acceptance, or what did the reception of this, your interracial relationship, marriage, look like from your social circle and his social
Mm,
circle? So like your friends, co-workers, colleagues, and just people outside of family. What did that look like? Because there is such a thing as like um
fetishization.
fetishization. There is this is crazy. There is such a thing as fetishization, where like people from one race consider folks from other different races and just have like sexual fetishes
Right. Yep.
about them. And it's like, oh, I've heard that, I don't want to give examples because they can be really awful.
Sure.
But it is a real thing, and I'm sure you are aware of this, Sherry.
Yeah.
But what did anything like that come up? Like, all those jokes that are not really funny that people tend to make, like when people say sometimes, like, I once heard a white person say, "Oh, I should stop saying the word black because when you go black, you never go back," or some
Oh yeah.
crazy like
Yeah.
dumb joke like that, out of
Right.
nowhere. Like we were talking about something completely different, and he just made this weird reference because I was the only black
Right.
person in the room, and just
Oh yeah.
weird stuff like that.
Yeah.
That are very very real, that happen in real life, and I wonder, like, were they racially considerate? Because acceptance and being racially, being liked by folks, even whether it's family and friends, and maybe I can extend this question to like his family too. Are they like
Mm-hmm.
racially considerate of you as a black woman in their space?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in their, just talk about it, talk about it, talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it. So, I guess socially speaking, we've got quite the diverse group of friends. So, right from the beginning, things were easy, right? Like, we've got a bunch of other friends who are also interracial couples, really good friends of ours who
Oh, that's great.
the husband is from Zimbabwe and his wife is from Sri Lanka, but they
Wow.
met in Montreal, of all
Wow.
places.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Ian was really good friends with them before he and I even became a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we've had this influence of just very diverse range of different kinds of cultures and backgrounds in our friend group and our social groups. But then there are the groups and social groups that, let's say, Ian grew up in, right, which are less culturally diverse.
Right.
um, for myself, personally, growing up, I've always had like I had friends from every country in the world, basically. So I've never felt out of place in any room. I've especially, just being in such a diverse community growing up. Yes, there were moments where I was the only black person in the room, sure,
Mm-hmm.
but predominantly speaking, I made it so that I was surrounding myself with people who looked like me or had
Mm-hmm.
similar aspects to themselves that are, to myself. So, in regards to when we started dating and what that looked like, of course, there were questions, like culturally speaking, what does it look like to be in an interracial couple? Um, I'm gonna shameless plug here, but Ian and I used to regularly post to our YouTube channel, and on there is where we got the questions like, girl, and it's mostly from people in the southern states or in the states in general who were just like, if I were to ever, like, you couldn't catch me dead with a white man. And I'm like,
Wow.
what? Like, just my eyes that were opened after, um, choosing to present ourselves to the world. Immediate social circles, everyone was always readily, supportive. Like, there was never any weirdness. I'm sure maybe you'd have a guy who makes a joke like that just because they don't know. Like it's a microaggression. Like, hey, dude, you
Mm-hmm.
probably shouldn't say something like that in one of our social groups from, his friends from way back when. But
Mm-hmm.
mostly speaking, we never ran into any of that kind of like tension
Okay.
in our immediate social groups, but definitely on the online world where anyone can kind of put their eyes on your content,
Mm-hmm.
we discovered a lot about, with um, just even like, our neighbors to the south, how different it is down there and how a couple like us is just like still in so many people's eyes like unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
um so we got some comments that, I won't lie to you, made me pretty upset. Like it,
Oh.
because I'd never in my life heard some of the things that people would say, like, like if you're married to a black woman or a black person, like your kids are gonna have a lesser IQ, or just the some of the most racist things. Like
Oh
that's just
my
one example, and
goodness.
that's like
Lower
not as
IQ?
bad as it gets. Yes, girl. I'm like,
Wow.
did you know? Like, if I could come back to some of these people, oh my gosh. And, like identity wise, for me, of course, I started to question like whether validity as a person, right? Because you're like, is this how the rest of the world
Mm.
sees me just because I chose to be with someone who's different than me? Whew.
Mm.
That part
Yeah.
was a challenge for sure. Um,
Mm-hmm.
in regards to our family, though, like I couldn't say like that there's ever any of that like weird, like you know, like ooh, okay. Okay. There was this one time, right? When we were first dating, and I didn't know this was happening because like he invited me over. His whole family was home. I didn't know this. It was Boxing Day, so he had his cousins. his aunt from out of town, and we walk in the door and everyone's sitting in the living room. They're staring right at us, and I was like, "Oh my god, hi everybody." We leave the room, go to the kitchen, or I went to the bathroom or whatever, and his aunt, of course, out of excitement, right? She would never have said this if she knew it would have hurt me, but she was just like, she whispered, she was like, "Mocha babies," to everyone in the room before she even knew our situation, before she knew like who I was or anything. Like, we're gonna have mocha babies.
Yeah, she was singing to the future.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just things like that. Um, when it comes to family, comments that kind
Mm-hmm.
of like are coming from like a genuine place of like excitement and like love for the diversity, but sometimes people just don't know. They're just not socially aware. They don't get it. That's not me
Yeah.
making an excuse by any means, because
Mm-hmm.
we work to educate ourselves
Yeah.
in 2023.
Yeah.
But it was new for me, new for Ian, new for everyone involved, right? So you kind of
Yeah.
have to extend a little bit of grace here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And then over time, you can slowly, nudge a little bit like, hey, you don't say things like just,
Yeah.
just so you know.
Yeah. 100%.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's it's all in good time, honestly, with
Yeah.
when it comes to family. So
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I'm glad that at least like the inner like circle of your family and friends where you had a
hmm
or you have a very like strong support system, right? So it's not like
yes,
you're
we do.
facing
Yeah,
adversity inside and out, like within in your home and in your
right.
family and then in the world too. So
hmm
that's a gift. So that's amazing.
It is. I know.
Yeah, it really
So nice.
is. It really is. So then my next question would be, as a black woman in Canada, I'm sure
hmm
that you would have stories about your um your stories of, microaggressions, macroaggressions, and people just being just outrightly racist or discriminating you for one reason or another. Being in a in an being in a inter and okay. Being in an interracial I'm gonna get it.
Yes,
I'm gonna get there.
you got this, girl.
I can't
After
speak, man.
that
I don't.
pronunciation word,
Yeah.
then
I can't speak, man. This is embarrassing, but
don't be embarrassed. It's okay.
um so yeah, being in an interracial relationship where your partner does not have to go through those things. And
Mm,
sometimes and I guess my question then is, what does safety look like in your relationship of having a place
yeah.
to express and just be like, oh, I had a rough day and this person said or did that, whatever, of just being able
hmm
to like vent and
Yeah.
kind of like, you know what I mean, like kind of unclench your fists, you know what I mean,
hmm
because as a
Yeah.
black person, sometimes just moving through the world, whether you're an immigrant or not, your skin is black, period. That's all they see. They won't come and ask you, wait, are you African American or are you an immigrant? You know what I mean? Like, nobody's going to come and ask you that. Like, the reality of it
No.
is, if you're black, you're black. Your skin is black, you're
Yeah.
black. Like, you are automatically under you just, everything encompasses you, right? So
Yeah.
um I guess, yeah, what does safety look like? Are you able to unclench your fists and no longer be in defense mode or vigilante mode of like,
Right.
oh, being kind of overly aware of, your interactions with people in the world of like, oh, that's a, microaggression, or just identifying and being like alert to people's behavior towards you.
Right.
My
hmm
question then, it's so intricate, and I hope that you can I hope that this is a bit clear in your mind, but what does it
Yeah.
look like for you in your relationship? What does safety look like? Are you able to unclench your fists and just be a
Mm.
person, a human, and feel safe that none of that, even though your relationship is with someone who is a white person, and even though
Right.
um, people outside, predominantly white, may have perpetrated harmful behavior towards you, racist or discrimination, or racism or discrimination, but you are you able to kind of take all that off and shed it and just know that with this person, this my person, I'm safe. And do you understand what I'm saying? Because I've said a lot of
Yes.
words, and I understand if it's like, wait, Sarah, clarify a little bit. I'm just asking,
No.
what does safety look like? Because as a Black woman, you don't
Mhm.
have the white privilege that your husband has. What is that? What is that balance, and what is that? What is that like? I guess in your relationship.
So, what does safety look like in our relationship? I would say safety looks like having conversations that are difficult to have. Safety looks like me being free to express, the true, real, raw stuff from time to time whenever I do feel like I have some pent up rage or something I need to vent about. I can come directly to my husband, who is always willing and open and loving and accepting in every situation. Of course, there's been conversations in the past, like for instance, when Black Lives Matter was a hot topic of discussion during COVID-19 time. That was a really difficult moment for me to experience because, for the first time, I felt like I was confronted with this, like with how true and real racism still is in today's day and age. And with that kind of looming over my head and my shoulders every time I would come in through the door after work, just, you hear another thing about something going on, about how, there's been brutality and racism expressed some way. And, it's heavy when you carry those things.
Yeah.
Um, that was an interesting thing to walk out with my husband because, again, first time we experienced anything like that together. So conversations were had, maybe a little bit of misunderstanding here and there just because he can't be in my shoes and he never will be able to understand things from the perspective of being a Black person. But he does as much as he can to still make sure I'm heard and, realize that he has a part to play. Um, and I will say this to him from time to time, but I do tell him, like, hey, you're going to have Black sons one day, you're going to have Black daughters one day. And
Hmm.
that's going to be evident from just when they step out of the door and the world sees them. There's going to be challenges that they face,
Hmm.
that we got to be there for them
Yeah.
in, and what that looks like. So we have those discussions on the regular, and it's always comes from a place of like educating and wanting to feel united in one understanding and one belief of, this is who I am. How how can I feel safe and supported by you as my husband? And he's always showed up for me. Like, of course, there's been times where it's like, oh, this discussion is getting a little heated, and that's not what it was meant to do, right? Just because it's coming from
Hmm.
me. I'm an emotional person.
Yeah.
And Ian's not necessarily like the best with words, but he means well and wants to know more and wants to encourage and be there for me in whatever way I need. So it's been good. I feel like in any relationship, really, you have this kind of like, there's everyone's got something that's different about them, whether it's just culturally speaking or, just this is my love language and this is how your love language is, and how do we like meet in the middle?
Hmm.
And I guess in regards to an interracial couple, it's just a little bit more, it goes deeper, right?
Yeah.
Skin deeper than skin deep. So, um, yeah, it's just about being open and creating that safe space for for being able to discuss those things openly without any reservations, and then understanding, being understanding and allowing your partner that time to develop those understandings about themselves, and then, you know, walk together towards, what we want. You want unity together,
Yeah.
togetherness. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how
Thank
it is.
you. Thank you for answering
Mm-hmm.
that because I know, oh, I can imagine because I don't know. I'm single. Single. But I can imagine I can imagine though that um like you said, in any relationship, like it takes work and communication and all those things, and in
Right.
one that is interracial, where sometimes even down to like um worldview, there's such
Mm-hmm.
difference in the way that you experience the world as a black woman versus the way that he experiences the world as a white man. And those core differences don't necessarily have to clash. You know what I mean?
Right.
They don't
Yeah.
necessarily have to clash, and it is possible for there to be care and safety in in becoming one, because that's what marriage is,
Yeah.
as you're becoming one with someone
Yes,
else,
girl.
and and that's what and I guess it takes both parties to create that kind of safety and that kind of
Yes.
openness and vulnerability, and
Mm-hmm.
because like life is hard enough, and then when you add like
Sure.
the racial injustices that, like, again, I
That pressure.
the pressure from outside, like I've still not seen the George Floyd video just because I can't I can't see it. I cannot, my
Yeah.
heart
It's
cannot
too
take
much.
it. And I can
Mm-hmm.
only imagine, I can only imagine how difficult it would be to look at the white policeman kneeling down on this harmless black man and then turning to the side and
Mm-hmm.
seeing your white partner here. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I can imagine how difficult it would be to kind of like make that separation in your mind that no, this man loves me and wants the
Yeah.
best for me, versus these people are perpetuating hate. You know what I mean? And
Exactly.
so I guess it's an exercise in seeing people for who they are. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Like people showing you who they are and seeing them for who they are versus assuming that, oh, white people are racist or black people are this or these people. You know what I mean? So instead of those like dangerous generalizations, I guess,
Yes. Yeah.
seeing people as human beings who behave in good or bad ways, right? Because there are good people and bad people. There are good white people and there
Exactly.
are bad white people. The same with black people, the same with every other race that exists in the world. There are just good people and there are bad people. And just, I guess, the confidence, or the maybe confidence is the word, but knowing and
Mm-hmm.
trusting that the person that you've chosen to spend your life with is not a bad person and
Yeah.
loves you and wants the best for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, all of that makes sense to me. And I think it is important. Like, I like what you said about dangerous generalizations. That's exactly what I would call it. It is dangerous to put, and unfair, honestly, to put everyone into a box, regardless of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
because then it doesn't leave room or space for anyone to develop or grow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, in your eyes, at least, if that's how you choose to see the world. Because everyone has the ability to grow and learn something if they're given the opportunity to, right?
Yeah.
And I do agree. There's situations where um, maybe too many opportunities have been given, and there's just some hurt and mistrust there. Sure, but
Yeah.
if you're with someone who's actively working to to show you that they can be trusted, to show you that they honor you and love you, and there's someone that you can feel safe with, and that needs to be enough sometimes. Sometimes you just need to take that weight off your shoulders and, trust that, hey, it's going to be okay. Like,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So tell me, do people stare at you guys in public? I'm just gonna dive right into it. Do
Woo.
you get like
um,
weird stares or like comments or questions
uh,
or stuff like that?
yes, we get stared at in public. And I'll be honest, I didn't necessarily notice it until much later into our relationship because I was oblivious to it. I was always like looking at Ian, and he was probably always just looking at me. we didn't,
Aw.
you didn't care about anybody else in the room, right? But later on in our relationship, for sure, I could tell, I could notice that, when you're approaching someone or walking past somebody on a busy street, that they take a little bit longer to like look at you guys. And in regards to Ian and I, like for sure, it's something that happens on a regular basis. Not every day, but there's definitely people who, probably just like, hmm, that's new. I don't see that about a whole lot, and that's okay. Honestly, I'm like, take your time.
Okay.
Like, go for it. Take a picture if you want.
Yeah.
It doesn't bother me. I think the reason is because, like, I mean, I saw a good looking couple walking down the street, I'd be looking at them too. And that's how I choose to see it, to be honest. People can think what they want to think. At the end of the day, I are a very happy couple, and we are not necessarily too concerned with what others may or may not look at us and want to say or whatever, whatever
Mm-hmm.
may be going on behind closed doors or behind our
Mm-hmm.
backs. Like, honestly, like, we could not give any less energy or any less thought. But yeah, it's definitely something I feel like we encounter
Yeah.
regularly enough, for
Yeah.
sure. Is the looks and the side glances. So yeah.
And I know those looks you're talking about because I worked in a small town last year, and I just had
Mm.
weird situations where I just, you feel eyes on you, and I just would feel eyes on me all the time.
Oh yeah.
And then sometimes I
Mm.
meet someone's like stare, and like we lock eyes, and sometimes they look away and sometimes they don't. And
Yes.
like at first I thought it was in my brain, like it was just me, like I was just in my head a little. And then I talked with the people
Mm.
that were around me, like other black folks that were there with me, and they're like, oh yes, sir, no, it's not in your head, it's real, they stare.
Exactly.
And I guess in my brain I just, even up till now, sometimes I don't get it. um but I'm also guilty sometimes of staring, because like, if to be honest, like there the first time
Me too.
ever the first time ever in my life I saw a person just walking on the streets without a shirt on in the summer. I'm like, wait, is everything okay? What is happening
Right?
here? I just
Wait
moved
a
I just moved
second.
to Canada in like 2015, and it was
Okay.
part of my culture shock, I guess. But I I moved in the fall, and by the time the next winter came, just seeing the way
Mhm.
that some people would dress in the summer shocked
Mhm.
me. I
Yes.
was surprised. I'm like, "Wait,
Yes.
is is this for real? Are they shooting a film? What is
Right.
happening here?" No.
Yes.
Some men just go about shirtless, and they're going from point A to point B, and it's because
Without a
like
care in the world.
without a care in the world. And so like for me, like I stare when I see things that in my brain have not connected as like a normal
Exactly.
thing, just from the culture and the the space and community and society that I'm from to here. So I remember, like,
Mhm.
I can imagine like my first year here, I just was like staring at everything and everyone, just
Everything.
freaking,
You're like,
you know
oh.
just like, wait, do we have electricity? They've not taken the light. Oh, wait, are they tricking us? This electricity, is it 247 real real? You know what I mean? Like weird things like that
Yes.
that you're just coming to terms with, and even with people, right? Because
Yeah.
like Canadians have this thing where like you're coming, if you kind of on a busy road where people are coming and going, um if someone is coming right in front of you, like you guys are about
Yeah.
to kind of cross each other, there's this
Yeah.
smile that people do. And at
Yeah.
first I did not understand it. I look back, I'm like, wait, is me? Are you smiling at me?
Do
What
you
is
know
going on?
me?
So do you know me?
Yeah.
And by the time I look back, the person had already, passed by me, and I
Yeah.
just moments like that, I just find myself kind of, so yeah, I stare too. Like I guess that's part of
Yeah,
my own integration process into the like the world around me and the community of just like the wonder of like, wait, what?
exactly.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I have been on the receiving end of like those weird ones you're talking about, the ones of like,
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
is that do they wait, what are they, what? You know what I mean? Those like
So
weird
funny. Oh yeah. The
glances and
glares, the
stares and the
glances,
glares,
the side eye,
the side eyes, bombastic side eyes.
bombastic side eye. Sometimes I'll be honest with you, even from other black people, other Africans for sure, they'll look,
Hmm.
right? And they don't care if you can see them looking.
Yep.
They'll show you everything they're thinking on
Yeah,
their
on their
face,
face.
on their face. And there's no shame. And I'm like, you know what? You do you.
Yeah.
Because, like, I just, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter to me. I'll
Yeah.
see it like as flattery because, I mean, I've had worse. So, anyways,
Honestly,
that's
like
how I feel about that.
I can imagine that the first ever interracial couple I ever saw, I stared. I
Mhm.
can imagine that.
Oh, for
I'm
sure.
sure I stared because I'm coming
Yeah.
from Nigeria. In Nigeria,
Yes.
it's not a common thing for a
Yeah.
black person to get married to or be in a relationship with a white person, right? And
Yeah.
Nigeria, of course, like Africa, is predominantly black continent, black country. And I, I can imagine I can
Yes.
imagine that, like, because honestly, part of being an immigrant is by the time when you move here, there's that sense
Yes.
of wonder when you're like in a public place and you're like,
Yes.
oh my gosh, like, am I really
It's all
here? Is
new.
this really, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, am I really here? Is this really happening? Like, that sense of awe and wonder. Like, for the first month, is there. So like you're staring
Yeah.
at everything, like the food, the what, the snow and the like everything, like the grass. Oh my god, the leaves are falling from the trees. What is happening? You know what I mean? Like there's that sense
Yeah.
of wonder and awe,
Yeah.
and that extends to people too. By the time you
It's
see
true.
like Asians and you're like, oh wow, that's a Chinese person I just saw. That's an
Yeah.
Asian I just saw. Or like, oh wow, a black man and a white woman, they're married. Look at them holding hands. And
Yeah.
like it's just genuine like awe and wonder and like, wow,
Exactly.
I am
Yes.
abroad.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
know? But yeah,
Oh, so
I just
funny.
wanted to acknowledge that there are like stares of like just wonder of like, wow, this is really a
Yeah.
thing versus like
It's
the ones that are
true.
not positive of like, what are
Mm-hmm.
the really the side eye like you were talking about
This
earlier.
side eye. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What is it like taking your space as an African person in your expression of your culture within your
Mm-hmm.
relationship? What is that like for
Mm-hmm.
you?
Oh, honestly, probably better than I thought it would have been. In regards to me feeling like I can just fully express myself, Ian's been supportive since day one. Like at our wedding, for example, he wanted to have Afro beats playing for the, reception and the dance
Mm-hmm.
part. Like we will, like we've always just tried to immerse ourselves in culture. I enrolled myself in a Miss Beauty of Africa pageant the first year into our marriage, and he was there alongside me like every step of the way,
Wow.
um, truly and continually supportive of every, I guess, endeavor that I've taken to discover the truth about my roots and who I am. And
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, it's been a journey for myself because in my adulthood, this is where I'm finally getting the chance to kind of fully grasp where I come from and what that traditionally speaking looks like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, in the beginning stages, it's always like, like, how are you cool with this? Are you cool with this?
Mm-hmm.
But like I mentioned before, Ian was friends with multiple black people before he was friends with me, and it was never a thing for me, or never a concern of the fact that he might see me as like a fetish or anything like that, because he was just
Mm.
genuinely, you know, interested by African culture, and he loved to eat the food. He'd try anything, like he'll eat whatever it is put in front of him, and sometimes he likes it, sometimes not so much. But
Yeah.
his favorite thing is plantain,
Oh,
right?
amazing.
Like he'll he will eat fried plantain. That guy. Um, but just things like that. It's like I get to share those things with him, and it's never for me ever been like well, I don't know if you don't want to be there, if you want to be involved. Um, he's just always been by my side and always been like my little partner in crime, and yeah, we've always been able to enjoy those things together. So yeah,
Oh,
he's
that's
pretty great.
amazing. That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for sharing that.
Mhm.
Thank you, Sherry, for
Thank
opening
you.
yourself up with us today and like being vulnerable with your experience and sharing your truth. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure the listeners do too.
Well, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Honestly, it's really great to be able to share these things and my experiences, and yeah, it's been good. We had a good time today.
Amazing. Amazing. I want you to give us one word of advice. If you remember like an African proverb that you heard that kind of resonated with you, like I want you to just share something for us, just sprinkle a little bit of wisdom.
I'm gonna have to think about one for a second. I guess if I were to share a word of wisdom, it would be to not take yourself so seriously and not to
Mm,
take life too seriously, because we're all experiencing this together for the very first time.
yeah, yeah,
And we're gonna, mistakes are going to be made,
yeah.
but to just have grace with yourself in the process and understand that everyone's learning, even yourself, to give yourself grace and be kind to yourself and to others.
Mhm.
But yeah, those are my words of wisdom that I would share. It's just to be gentle with yourself and loving towards yourself and to others around you.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sherry. Thank you again
Yeah,
for your
thank
time, for
you.
your energy, for your heart, and for your soul. I'm just so grateful that you just you spent the time with us to just share your experience and your heart and your life, and I just feel so grateful and privileged and honored that you felt safe and comfortable enough to answer these questions. Some of them were a little bit hard, but you went there with me, and I just really truly want to say thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for opening up the floor to discuss for discussions like this to happen, and creating a space where people can share these things. And yeah, it's really truly a treasure to be able to do something like this. So thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sherry, again for joining us. Until next time,
You're
guys.
welcome.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Afros in the Diaspora. I hope this episode left you feeling inspired and hopeful. To engage, feel free to like, follow, share, and subscribe to Afros in the Diaspora on all social media and podcast platforms. Remember to leave a review and a rating. If you would like to be a guest, please reach out. Send an email to hi@afrosinthediaspora.com. That is hi@afrosinthediaspora.com. Or send us a DM on Instagram at afrosinthediaspora. Remember, there is beauty in our stories and power in our voices. Together, we are stronger. Until next time.